All right, welcome back, guys. Happy Wednesday. This is Sean with the Blue Ridge Silverhound, back with another edition of the Pocket Change Market Report, where we take a look at some of your sales of errors and varieties that have been found out in the wild somewhere on eBay. We're going to take a look at 24 hours worth of activity. Lots to talk about, lots to unwrap here. Just to kind of do a little recap, how are people finding these? It's real simple. There's a lot of errors and varieties to be found out there, and a lot of this stuff is either found going through general pocket change, going through your wallet, looking through your dollar bills, looking for something neat in there, or you're cherry picking at the coin shops and shows. Generally, coin dealers, they may not care a lot about just some of these varieties. It might seem a little too minor, a little too cumbersome for them to resell, but also those errors as well. There are dealers that really don't particularly care about errors of any capacity. This is your chance to swoop in, buy these things up, or find them, add them to your collection, or resell them. I know a lot of people that resell as supplemental income, and they do really well. Of course, as always, this is something that you got to put the work in. How much time you put in equates to how much you get back from it. So if you just look through a few coins and say, oh, I didn't find anything, well, that's your fault. You didn't really try there. So put in the work, and then this can bear a lot of fruit. A few other things to point out. We don't talk about graded coins. Grading of any sort adds a tremendous expense to these coins. If your whole motivation is to resell them, don't grade them. Errors and varieties speak for themselves. They have a look all their own. They're highly attributed. And the people that generally do buy these, well, they're very well versed in numismatics in general, so they'll know what they're looking for, and they would prefer ungraded coins. And then finally, all the pictures you see today are original to those listings. I didn't doctor them or make them appear clearer than they actually should. You're going to see the best and the worst of what people have sold, and it'll give you an idea of what that low bar has been set to. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We have, again, about 24 hours of activity. Again, it was very busy. A lot of usual suspects in here, but at the same time, a lot of new stuff. How about this 1923 Lincoln wheat cent? Yeah, this thing's been around the block a few times, but check that out. Right there at the base of Lincoln's bust, you have a raised feature. That is actually a cud die break. A piece of the die had broken off at some point, thereby leading to this anomaly on any struck coins with that broken piece of die. Where there's no die, that's where all the metal flow is going to go into, thereby leading to a raised lump on the coin. So this one right here, I mean, it's not the worst example, but it's not the most pristine. However, it is one particular date that we don't see come across the auction block too much. This one right here ended up selling for a really nice $54.25 with 10 total bids. The next one that we have here is a classic case that, there are some varieties that don't add a whole lot of value, but that's okay. This is a great coin nonetheless. It's a 1946 S Washington quarter. The coin, as you can see, is in pretty decent shape. I would say it's probably a high-end AU, maybe a low-grade mid-state, like a 61 or 62. When it gets to this particular grade state, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes. So it's either a really nice slider or a really nice, decent, low-grade mid-state coin. But this is a great cherry picker's guide variety. One that's very common, by the way. It's the repunchment mark FS501. That's highlighted by that extra little horn or hook that you see right there north of the primary mint mark. So there's an extra S that was punched north of the primary here. Even the earliest die states won't show a complete top curl of the S poking through, but usually just that little spike there. So this is a no-brainer. Not too bad of a sale. Again, it doesn't add a ton of value because these are quite common. $17.50 was the sale price on this variety. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick little look, a little market update on the wide AMs. Most specifically, the two common ones, the 98 and the 2000 wide AM varieties in all grades. At one point last year, in 2022, used to be a shoe-in for an $8 to $10 coin, even in some of the lower grades. Is it still like that today, or have we seen a little bit of retracement on some of the more minor varieties? Here's our feature coin here. In this particular case, it's a 2000, highlighted by that nice wide gap between the A&M in America. The normal coins will have an A&M that are touching at the base. And always check out the FG initials as well to kind of double check that you do indeed have this variety. It's very common. These are the FS901 in the Cherry Picker's Guide, and this particular example sold for $6.08. So I've seen a few examples here in the last, I would say, month or so that look similar in condition to the coin you just looked at, that has sold in that kind of like $5 to $7 range. So, you know, it was bound to happen. These things are quite common. A lot of what we do find out there are generally pretty well circulated. And if you do have these, you know, it's a matter of, do I really need the $5 to sell it? Otherwise, just hold on to them. The next one that we have here was a coin that was kind of hot last year. That's the Sally Ride American Women Quarter. It's a 2022P. As you can see, the seller drew a few red arrows there on Washington's neckline area, and this is actually a strike through. They call this a field restricted strike through, where the feeder finger actually made contact with the die, leaving a few scrapes on there, a little damage, but also transferring some of the grease that has that came from the feeder finger. And when it strikes up other coins, if there's any grease whatsoever on the die, it's going to translate into what you see here. So it's grease, various debris items, metal shavings, dirt, you name it. So this one right here used to be a $20, $30 coin at the same time last year. Not worth quite that much, but I wouldn't toss these back into change just yet. This particular example ended up selling for $11.08. So I would certainly take that money and run. If you find more, now might be the time to sell them. So we don't have much in the way of paper currency, but the few pieces that we do have are quite interesting. I think these are going to be an assault to the visuals. And we have this one here, a 1974 $1 bill that features a couple really nice, what they call gutter folds. So the subject sheet actually had a wrinkle or a number of wrinkles in there. It was never stretched out at any one point during a specific part of the printing process, and that's key, specific, because when we look at the reverse of this note, you're going to see that the area that has the wrinkles were at one time stretched out and printed over. Now, here's the caveat on our printed currency. The back is actually the first part to receive any sort of print. So in this particular case, the wrinkles were stretched out, the sheet was printed over, and then when they go to apply the second and subsequent overprint, somehow the wrinkle kind of came back together, which it happens, especially if, you know, if you could imagine these great big stacks of currency paper that's been sitting for a while. You know, they have almost like muscle memory. Not to the extent of what, you know, humans' bodies do, but as far as paper, you know, it doesn't matter if you stretch out a wrinkle. There's going to be a point in time where that's going to turn back into a wrinkle if you're not careful. So this one right here, very nice looking piece, sold for $65. The more gutters that exist on a note, the more visually striking it is, and therefore will equate to more dollars. Now this is a neat one here. So this is a coin that looks like it was damaged, and here's the big reason why. It's a 2020 Lincoln Shield cent, and a number of these were certainly found when it came out a couple years back. This particular example is a little bit off-center. I would say there's probably even a partial tilted collar in there as well. But, you know, it looks like it received some sort of damage at some point in the process. Not the minting process, but maybe the pack-out process. when these were being packaged either at the Federal Reserve Bank or at a armored car company like Brinks. So these coins, because they're going to be a little bit thicker due to that partial tilted collar, it's going to get stuck somewhere in the roller or the little centrifugal chamber where these things spin around in, kind of like a counting machine of sorts. But this is for wrapping the coins and rolls. So whatever happened, this one did receive a little bit of damage. Some of that copper plating sheared off in certain areas, along with a little zinc action. Although pretty neat. It's not for me. For a lot of you that do have these, because folks were finding these quite a bit. You probably sell them and do really well. Like this one right here, sold for $8.99. That seems to be the going rate. If you could find one that doesn't have the damage on there, those are going to be worth more money. I've seen them go as high as $20 to $25 on the secondary market. And check your silver as well. Now, this is a coin that at first glance will trick a lot of people. Like, well, this thing's really worn. But when you look at it up close, you're going to find that there's a lot of general weakness on the letters, the outside peripheral design of both sides of the coin. And generally, when I see this, I'm like, yep, that's a great example of a coin that was struck through some grease. And it was. That's what we have here. But also keep in mind, the appearance of this coin. It looks like it's been cleaned at some point. It's not a coin that, let's say, if you send it off to PCGS, that's going to come back straight graded. That's simply not the case here with this coin. As it's cleaned, we know what the type of error it is, and sometimes that's just enough. You're going to, right out of pocket, spend, $25 to $30 to own this coin at a coin dealer. They'll have a junk bin of these things. And if your eagle eye is working, you could find something like this, turn around and make a few bucks in the process, like this seller did. They ended up selling it for $45, making good on the type of error that is on the coin. So make sure you're looking out for these. I know the earlier Morgans and Peace Dollars, there's a lot of strike-throughs and whatnot that you can't find on there, so be extra attentive because you're going to turn that silver melt value coin into a lot more. Now here's a 1925S Lincoln Wheat Cent. This is actually one of my favorite varieties. As a matter of fact, I found this very same variety about 2 months ago going through a wheat cent bag. But this is a very nice one. It's RPM number 3 this time. Showing a secondary estimate mark that's punched southward. And if I'm not mistaken, this is indeed a Cherry Picker's Guide variety as well. This one ended up selling for $34.95. And the coin is not, spectacular. It's a good, solid, VF, maybe low-end XF variety coin. 1925Ss are generally very weakly struck as well. So that's going to give off the impression that these things wear a lot quicker or looks a lot more worn than it actually is. So this is a really good variety. Look out for these. And we also have another great looking strike through. This is a different type of strike through this time. Not one I would say involves a lot of grease, but maybe a detached lamination from another coin that had fallen onto the die and had subsequently struck this 1956D Lincoln Wheatie. So you can see that there in the fields in front of Abraham Lincoln's face is what we have. So it could also be a piece of wood of some sort. You just never know with these things. But this one did end up selling for $10.99. These have its audience, put them up, do a best offer, and you're going to be in good shape. As long as the coin is in decent shape, you're going to get a pretty decent amount of money out of it. Now, this is a good one here. I believe this was the same coin that we highlighted on our live coin Q&A, and this is a 1983 P, Kennedy half dollar. With some pretty strong clash dies, most notably on the obverse there. But you could see the clashing in front of Kennedy's mouth and nose area. You could see some of those rays from the eagle on the reverse, and then a little bit on the reverse as well behind Kennedy's neck area. On the reverse, there's not much in the way of any sort of remnant of clashing. I do see some file lines, which leads me to believe that a mint employee tried cleaning that reverse die up the best that they can. So all in all, not the greatest looking pictures on this one. If the seller would have done much better pictures to highlight the actual natural surfaces of the coin, along with highlighting the clashes, that would be better. This was just taken under very dark, kind of like lighting, very directional, specific lighting. So when you do take pictures of coins like this, try and use as much natural light as possible. I would say step outside, put your coin on something like a table or what have you, and take the picture. Use the natural light surrounding, and you should do really well capturing everything that you can to give this one a much more natural look. But not that notwithstanding, great coin, sold for $43.23 with 9 bids this time. Holy smokes, that's a lot of light on this coin. But real quick, 1921 Morgan dollar. Talk about common date. Coin, kind of hard to tell what condition it's in. I mean, it looks like there's some luster on there. But the thing that I want to point out is that there's a really small, shallow rim clip. You can see it here on the obverse by star number 3, and then also on the reverse as well. So very minor to a lot of people, but what if you pick this thing up for 25 to 30 bucks? It's bound to happen. What can you expect to get from it? This seller ended up selling his for $89.95. That's 3x whatever they paid for it, I'm sure, and I would certainly take that all day long. And this individual had a roll of one of the quarters from last year, the Nina Otero Warren. These are 2022 Philly dated rolls, and this one right here still sells for approximately double face. This one sold with shipping for $20. By the time you factor in fees and shipping, this person probably make about $5 net. Above face value. So not too bad. Still a good opportunity. But these things are still worth more than face value. Here's our other piece of currency. Man, this thing is awesome. It's a 1963 $1 bill that features a butterfly fold. So there was a fold in the sheet, and then it was subsequently printed over. Here's a good image of this note with the fold opened up. Here's one with the reverse and the fold outward. So you can see that front print on there along with the plate number. That's actually kind of cool. And then here is actually another image with it folded in. And again, it's pretty neat. This was probably, the note did circulate a little bit. It's actually got folds in there. So strange enough, a lot of people that don't know any better, they'll usually tear off that butterfly, and it's almost like tearing out the soul of a paper money collector when something like that happens. So make sure you don't tear off any sort of like long butterfly type of extra paper material on your notes. They're worth a lot of money just based off of that merit. So this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, ended up selling for $245.99. Can you imagine if that was torn off? This thing would only be worth a few dollars at the most. Well, our good old boy Tuskegee Airmen ATB quarter, the long last of the National Park Series quarters, had a pretty good run. And this one right here is a beater. This thing is, on grade alone, it's nothing special. But it's worth noting that people are finding these pretty big die chips right on the goggle area of the airmen here. That actually goes into the word wars. So make sure you're still looking out for these. This particular example did sell for $10.85. So that's not nothing at all. Take it for what it is and run with it. Oh man, one of my favorites. I have scores of these. It's a 1954 D Lincoln Wheat Cent. This is a really nice prominent RPM that features a secondary Denver mint mark that's punched northward of the primary, and this is RPM number 1. And I believe this is a D over D over D. So the third D in there is, I believe, tilted slightly south. It doesn't show up too well on this one. This one's, I think, a much later die state version of this RPM. But the coin's in great shape. Sold for $23.90. And yeah, the other day I was trying to figure out what in the world do you call an off-center struck coin that has kind of like a flat-edged part of the off-center. And they call it a chain strike. That's when you have two off-center struck coins in the striking chamber at the same time, and they butt up against each other, creating kind of just a straight line. And that's what this one is here on this 1973D Roosevelt dime. It is struck off-center, probably by about 75-80%, but it's also got a very funny-looking straight edge there by Roosevelt's face. So that's another coin that was struck up against it. So there is a mated other piece somewhere out in the world. At this point, just write it off as being owned by someone else or destroyed. Kind of hard to say. But this one, really cool. Sold for $129.89. Based off of the type of error, chain strike, off-center strike with the chain strike attribute there, they do sell for a little bit more money. So keep that in mind. Oh boy, I haven't seen one of these in quite a while, but this is probably one of the more minor rotated die errors that you'll find on the 2021P. This one has a 30% rotated die reverse. All right, and that's all you could ask for is a little bit of a chance, to find something really neat and have it be worth something, right? This is definitely worth more than a nickel, and the coin is in phenomenal shape. This one sold for $14.10 with 3 bids. There are versions of this particular error that are rotated by 45 degrees. 90 degrees. I think they go up as high as like 110-ish. Those examples sell for like 70, 80 bucks. So these are the very coin out there that a lot of people really aren't paying too much attention to. And that's unfortunate because there is quite the market for them right now. Hey, we got a nice little early piece here. How about a 1905S? Barber dime. Not the coolest, greatest looking example. I mean, it's got a lot of detail left, but boy, it has scratches on the obverse. It has a couple digs there on the reverse under the letter E and 1 on the denomination. But yeah, this is a pretty cool RPM. And we don't see too many RPMs on the earlier dates of coins that feature a physical mint mark. This is actually RPM 001. And there you go. You got a nice little kind of like pseudo-rotated S mint mark. And you can see the double top serif, which is really cool. So look out for these. There are more to be found. This one did sell for $78.50. So pretty nice sale. And another big variety. If you guys aren't looking for this one, you're doing it all wrong. 1960 D over D RPM. This is number 1. The coin in question is a really nice high-grade BU specimen. Lots of mint red on here. But check that out. So the secondary mint mark is punched west of the primary. One of the strongest RPMs that you will ever come across in the Lincoln Memorial Series. And this is a great day to cherry pick through anyways. This one is also FS502 in the Cherry Picker's Guide. And it's sold for $53.90. And here's another, kind of like, hey, let's run through some bulk Buffalo nickels, and then you come out with this, which is just a simple curved clip on a 35, very common date. It does exhibit really nice Blakesley effect on both sides, so it's got that flattening edge, just a little bit of an uneven strike because of the clip, contributing to the Blakesley. So this one sold for 20 bucks. So it's a coin that you could pick up any day for like a buck or less. So this would be a really nice flip if you wanted it to be. Here's a 31S as well. This one has a little bit of a lamination that's still attached on the reverse, but a great date nonetheless. This is a tougher one, lower mintage. It's one of the more obscure 1930s Buffalo dates where it's only got an S mint. There's no Philly, no Denver. It's just San Francisco. This one right here is sold for $37. Okay, it's not all entirely on the lamination. It's just the date, and the coin is in great shape. Here's another Tuskegee Airman, not for the same reason as the prior, but hey, how about another strike through, burning building strike through there? This one is in decent shape. It's circulated, which a lot of them are. You're not going to find too many of these that are in like, just blisteringly very nice, brilliant uncirculated condition anymore. So this one right here is sold for $44.99. The prices are still holding steady, and we'll see that as long as the condition is in pretty nice shape like this one. All right, so this is a coin that a lot of people have in their change jar. They just don't know it yet. There's actually quite a few of these. I ended up going through a change jar like five years ago, one of our own, by the way, and had come across one of this same error. It's a 1959 Denver Lincoln Memorial set that was struck through a very late stage capped die. So there was actually a coin die design go through that very thin cap and then onto the host coin like you see here. Now with a capped die strike, you want to make sure that the reverse has a very solid, very sharp strike, which is a counter to what the front would look like on this one. So look out for these. These will trick a lot of folks into thinking that it's like major circulation wear. This one right here sold for $45. So I've seen them anywhere from like $30 to as high as like a few $100s, depending on the coin. Oh yeah. Someone just casually threw up an FS 101 double die obverse 1955, and it looks right as rain here. So yeah, this one sold. Nice raw, ungraded specimen. Nice brown to it. I would say it's probably like an AU 55 grade. How about $1,885? Yeah, you can buy these ungraded if you know what you're looking for and you know those die markers. Make sure you use them, because you don't want to own a counterfeit of this coin. And yeah, we have the good old Bessie Coleman's, the brand new quarter on the block that people are hunting through. They got a 2023 date, and people have been finding some weird stuff on these, on both Philly and Denver minted coins. Here's another one you could add to the list, and our good old boy George Washington, has a rough time washing his face. Okay, and it shows. He has a pimple on the tip of his nose, which is actually a tiny die chip. I thought we were done finding these things, but apparently the die chip on the tip of the nose continues on in 2023. And this is like one of the tiniest, smallest versions of this I've seen, and it fits. The pimple-nosed George Washington, he really needs to go see a dermatologist. This one sold for $55. Now, call for what it is. I know some of the other die chip on nose types of any other American women quarter, they sold really well, like 10, 20, $30 on occasion, depending on the size. Since this is the first one to show up on eBay, it probably deserves the $55 sale. The last couple coins are great looking coins, and we have a 1976 Denver bicentennial quarter here, guys, with a very simple curved clip, right? But errors of any type on this coin is highly coveted, and they will sell for a lot more than the same error on any other date of Washington quarter. Like this one, for example, sold for $42.15 with 17 bids. If this was like, say, on a 1977 quarter, that's probably a $10 coin all day long. So you see the infatuation that collectors have to the bicentennial drummer boy quarter. And again, it's not going to change. If you find an error on these, congratulations, enjoy the money. And then finally, we're going to end it off on one of the cooler coins of the week. How about this 1984 Denver Washington quarter? What's up with that obverse? It looks like it's adorned in copper, and it sure is. It's just missing the nickel plating on the obverse. So, yeah, I mean, it happens too, but generally the coins will be slightly thinner as a result. And I don't see a ton of like extra weakness on the strike of this coin. And I'm okay with that. This is a really normal looking missing clad layer coin. Very, very attractive. Very nice kind of like red-brown appearance on the obverse. It has a really nice look to it. As far as weight, yeah, it's over a gram lighter in weight compared to a standard clad wash and quarter, which weighs about 5.67 grams. So, yeah, I mean, this one's legit. And again, this is something that you don't necessarily have to grade, but probably wouldn't be a bad idea, So send it off to Annex and pay the least amount of money for it, and you'll be good to go. So this one sold for $87.66 with 8 total bids. My friends, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for a little bit of pocket change market action. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my video if you enjoy the content. But also check me out on TikTok as well, at Blue Ridge Silverhound. But that's going to wrap it up. Time for you guys to get to work. Bring me some material. Do you guys have a coin that you found and you are just chomping at the bit of knowing more? You could certainly send us an email as well at info@livecoin on eBay. So you guys take care. Happy hunting, and I'll see you on the next coin video.